We're a little bit more than a month away from the Hurricanes starting training camp. And I saw the headline yesterday. I actually saw a tweet from Elliot Friedman in talking about offer sheets to restricted free agents. And I went through PTSD thinking, oh, my gosh, what did I miss? What did the Hurricanes do? And oddly enough, not involved. Not involved at all. And that was a good thing. Cory Lavalette, North State Journal, and The Athletic joins me on the Adam Gold Show. Were you also surprised that there were offer sheets given and the Hurricanes or the Canadiens were not involved in either?
Adam, I was just surprised they happened at all. It's such a rare occurrence, but then I thought about it a little, and you've got a GM in St. Louis that's already announced when he's going to retire, so I guess what does he have to lose at this point?
Yes, I also saw, and this story is maybe 2 weeks old already, that Yevgeny Kuznetsov signed his 4-year deal with SKA St. Petersburg, and if I'm not mistaken, that's Alexander Nikishin's team. So is that good or bad for the Hurricanes?
I mean, I don't know that it really matters all that much. It seems like, things are about where you expect with Nikishin, and I don't think that Kuznetsov had, a bad experience here by any means. Maybe didn't get as much ice time as he thought he should, but and that probably led to, him deciding to move on. But I don't think he's going to speak ill of the Hurricanes on his way out.
Okay, I hope not. We want Nikishin. Like I know the KHL season has been the calendar's been shoved forward a little bit, or back, I guess you would call it, and won't end until into April. Do you think we will see, assuming the Hurricanes are playing playoff hockey in the mid to late April, maybe even into May, do you think we will see Alexander Nikishin come over then, or should we just go, it won't be till the following year?
I really don't know. I'm going to be totally honest.
Wait a second. You know everything.
Everyone is so careful with these kind of negotiations. They're
right.
So, because it's not just about rocking the boat with the player. It's about rocking the boat with an entire establishment. Even the Hurricanes landing Pyotr Kochetkov had implications on Nikishin just because Pyotr changed agents, and I guess it made someone mad. And I think you just have to be really, really careful with all those things, and that's what the Hurricanes have been, which is, I was a little surprised. Obviously, Don Waddell's not here anymore, but I was surprised he'd even bring up the possibility of Nikishin coming over for this upcoming season like he did early in the offseason.
Yeah, and just for people who don't remember, and I think I have this right, the KHL shut down their season a few years back. They were still dealing with COVID. They shut down their season, and Kochetkov needed a place to play, so he came stateside, and that's where the Hurricanes, not the relationship because he was a drafted player, but that's how this whole thing started, correct?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure how that all unfolded.
Wait a second.
This Russian stuff is really, really, it's almost like when people were fleeing the Soviet Union. It's all done under darkness, it seems like. So, I think, the big thing is just going to be keeping him happy and, making sure he wants to be here. And obviously there was that little moment this offseason where they all played in that kind of charity game.
They did.
And Nikishin kind of stormed in and crashed the photo of Hurricanes players, and Svechnikov welcomed him in that. And, those little moments probably don't hurt at all, but it's all just going to matter. The kid's going to be a star in the NHL, I think. I think he can step in and be a top 4 defenseman right away. So there's a reason to be excited and a reason for the Hurricanes to be careful.
And no question about it. Real quick, and do you anticipate that entry-level deal being 1 or 2 years?
I'm not really sure. I would think probably 2, but we'll see how that all hashes out, I guess. This stuff is also dependent on how the player wants things to unfold in the future.
Right.
And he's got all of the leverage right now. He could stay in the KHL and be one of the star players in that league if he wants and stay in his home country.
Yeah.
At the same time, the draw is, you want to play against the best players in the world.
And you don't want to do that only once every 4 years at the Olympics. Talked to Rod Brind'amour the other day, and we were talking about just the Olympics, and he was excited for the return of NHL players to the Olympics. He just wishes it was in the summer games so it wouldn't shut down the regular season. I understand. I think the fact that it's on ice probably gets in the way of all of that. Cory Lavalette, North State Journal, and The Athletic is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. You and I have not had a chance to speak since the Martin Necas contract was ultimately worked out. Did anything surprise you there?
No, after really thinking about it, not really. I think both sides kind of got what they wanted. The Hurricanes got a little bit of certainty and the ability that if things don't work out this year, they have a player they can trade who has a term already attached to him. And Martin Necas walked to free agency, which is, in his representatives probably wanted. And, I think it's good for both sides because I think the Hurricanes are going to get a player now who's not worried about his contract. We've seen the last two times his deal was on the last year that he's struggled. I don't think last year was a monumental struggle like it was last time around, but he still took a step back after being so good the year before. After really thinking about it, I mean, to take it right to free agency at first was like, wow, that's a little surprising, but then you kind of consider everything and, they've got to mend fences a bit. I don't know if there's any, hard feelings anywhere. I've told so many people that this isn't a situation where the coach and player don't get along or the player and team don't get along. It's just a kind of a square peg round hole thing that I don't think there's any animosity involved in it. It's just kind of an understanding from maybe both sides that unless things change a little bit, it's probably not the greatest fit. But, Necas likes playing here. He had a chance to go somewhere else and chose not to. Mm-hmm. I think that will all hash out. And it's not like he's walking into a locker room where a whole bunch of people are going to be mad at him. Those are guys he's friends with and, he's a good teammate and all that.
My feeling is that it becomes a fairly big preseason for Necas and maybe not, earth-shattering, but it's a bigger preseason because I think he's going to be given more responsibility. Everybody is kind of assigned a position. I want to be a center. I don't know that that's the case as much as I want to be more relied upon. And he felt like maybe over the last couple of years, he had been less relied upon as Seth Jarvis has taken a bigger role. I thought he was important to the second power play unit. I don't think they're going to have two power play units this year. They might have two different defensemen running the power plays, but I don't see more than 6 players who could theoretically be on a power play right now. Excluding I guess some youngsters. But I think he's going to kill penalties. I don't think he's going to play center, but I think he's going to play a ton of minutes. So I think it's about responsibility with him more than anything else.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a secret that there was a little bit of disappointment that he had such a monster season and then he starts last year and he's on the second power play unit, right? I mean, and that those opportunities, were even less once Jake Gensel got there, although really Gensel just replaced Bunting. But,
right.
So you'd think there's a spot for him now on the top unit again, especially since Seth Jarvis isn't like Seth Jarvis is the guy on the offside wing really ripping shots. He's more of the net front.
Right.
Net front presence in that situation. So, it'll be interesting to see how that fits in. You mentioned the center thing. I agree with you. I don't think that's going to happen just because, It took Rod forever to trust Sebastian Aho enough to be a center. And Sebastian was never a guy who didn't try to do everything he could on the defensive side of the puck. Rod was just worried about every little bit of it, face-offs and size. And, when I remember asking him about Aho being a center before Aho was a center, and he was like, well, look at how big he is. And he's only 6 feet, which, I looked at Rod and I was like, Rod, you're only 6 feet. I didn't say that to him. But I mean, Rod's was obviously a bigger,
right,
stronger player than Sebastian is. But it took him a long time to trust Sebastian in that role, and it would take a lot for Necas to earn that trust because, he's regressed as a face-off guy. He was terrible last year. And, like you said, he lost the penalty killing role that he had 2 seasons ago. And maybe that comes back this year with Teuvo Teravainen being, gone to Chicago, that maybe that opens up the chance for him to slot alongside Sebastian Aho. And that tandem has, looked good with a lot of open ice, although killing penalties been 3-on-3.
Yeah, but what? Necas wasn't bad at it when he was doing it a bunch of years ago. The Hurricanes just had so many other options to kill penalties the last several years. You mentioned Teuvo Teravainen. It's also very possible that we won't have Jesper Fast for some, if not all, of the season. We still have not gotten clarity as to, because I've been told that the range of possibilities for Fast comes from he might be ready at the start of the season to where he might retire. Like it's that wide for Fast, and there might be a lot of necessity for him. Final thing for Cory Lavalette, North State Journal and The Athletic, at Cory Lav on Twitter. When you look at this roster, and we both agree that Seth Jarvis this is not an issue. Jarvis will sign his roughly 8x8 deal and be in training camp at some point. That'll get done. I'm just leaving that as rhetorical. We don't have to discuss it unless you disagree.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it'll necessarily be a long-term deal. It could be a bridge deal, but I don't think there's any concern about him getting signed.
Okay. Yeah. When I talked to Luke Takaka about this a couple of weeks ago, he also thought that there might be a bridge deal. I would wager on anything that this will be an 8-year deal. But I think that's what both sides want out of this. And they're just not that. I just don't think they're that far off in a number. I think we're just playing the normal, silly waiting game here. When you look at the roster, what do you think?
I'm really interested to see how things hash out on defense in training camp. You've got something that works with Orlov and Chatfield, but the question is, can those two play tougher minutes than they played last year? Sean Walker obviously could fit alongside Dmitry Orlov too, and the Hurricanes know that Chatfield and Gostisbehere can play together because they have before. So all of that is going to be interesting to see how that hashes out. You need Brent Burns to come back refreshed. I mean,
yes.
I think that's really important because Jacob Slavin is going to take a lot more tougher minutes than he has been. Brett, for all the talk about Jacob Slavin being, one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, and he undoubtedly is, he didn't draw the toughest assignments night after night. It was Brady Shea and Brett Pesce who did. And that's going to be something that's different. He's going to have to take harder minutes, and that means Brent Burns is going to have to take harder minutes. So that all of that is interesting to watch. I'm curious. You mentioned Jesper Fast, and I think that's Jack Roslovic is kind of the insurance policy on that. I feel like, but I'm curious to see that there's an opportunity there. There's a spot in the roster for someone, and I want to see how Bradley Nadeau takes, whether or not he can take advantage of that opportunity, because I think there's a thinking that maybe he could be with the team to start the year, and in doing that, you've just added, some kind of instant offense. And I'm not saying he's going to come in and score 40 goals, but you're going to have a guy that is capable of scoring from like anywhere in the zone, and I'll be interested to see if live up to maybe those expectations. I'm not saying the Hurricanes have written him in Sharpie, but I think maybe in very light pencil they've said, Bradley Nadeau could very well be a fit in our top 6.
Yeah, I think they would. Not saying they need, but I think they would love for Nadeau or another rookie who can score a little bit to make the team. Yes or no, playoff team?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the doomsdayers are just kind of overreacting about that. Not only do I think they're a playoff team, I still think they'll compete for the division. And the Rangers got worse. I think the Devils, we'll see. They obviously added a lot of pieces. They'll get Dougie Hamilton back. They got Jacob Markstrom. So, I mean, I suppose that will solve their goaltending issue, though, as we know, goaltending makes no sense. So, I think they're going to battle for the division still, and I think they'll be in that top 3 in the division, too. I don't, Washington added some pieces, but I don't think there's a whole lot to be concerned with there. No. That stuff to me is, a little kind of crazy to think that they're not a playoff team now because of a few pieces that left.
Cory Lavalette, North State Journal and The Athletic. I appreciate you helped me get my Hurricanes fix. I haven't talked about them in like 2 weeks. Thank you much, my friend. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good, buddy.